Hey everybody, Jason Sherman here. In today's episode of Zero CEO, we delve deep into the world of entrepreneurship alongside Chartered Financial Analyst and seasoned entrepreneur, Brooke Lively. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, Jason.
This is going to be a cool episode because we're going to talk about the hidden strategies to exponentially grow your business, right? So these are like potentially covert. I'm curious to hear what's so secret about some of them. I want to rip the Band-Aid off. Right. I just want to get right to the nuts and bolts of this. And so can you give me like maybe 3 hidden strategies that entrepreneurs listening to this might not know about?
So I think really the biggest thing that we focus on, I'm going to take 3 strategies and combine them into one.
Okay.
And we're going to call it the rule of thirds. And here's what it is. When we look at gross profit, so after revenue minus cost of goods sold, we want 1/3 of that to go to your people, 1/3 of that to go to your operating expenses, and we want 1/3 of that to go to profit.
Mm-hmm. Your pocket.
Yeah. Now, realize that from that profit, you have to pay taxes.
Right.
You need to reinvest in your business. You may have to bonus out some people.
Mm-hmm.
But that's what we're looking for. And there are a lot of different levers that you can pull within those different categories to achieve those kinds of returns. But frankly, most people don't ever get anywhere close to that.
Right. They're usually struggling along and they can't quite get to that next point. So again, let's talk about like a hidden strategy here. What, somebody listening to this right now is saying, oh, I wish I could get to the point where I have a third, a third, and a third, but I don't even have one of the thirds. So how can we get that entrepreneur to then kind of exponentially grow their business to have those 3/3 available? Like, what are some of the things that they're missing?
Well, I think let's start with the third that they probably don't have, which is profit, right?
Right.
So when we're looking at profit, one of the things that we do is we create a profit plan. We don't use the B word, budgets.
That's an ugly word.
That is a very ugly word. Nobody wants a budget.
A budget. No.
Oh, that's restrictive. That's like tell you what you can't do. We're entrepreneurs. We're all about the possibility, not the prohibition. So we create profit plans.
Okay.
So it's create a profit plan to have some profit, look at the numbers and say, okay, if I do this kind of marketing, it will drive this kind of revenue. Mm-hmm. And if I drive that kind of revenue, how many people do I have to get that to make that product?
It's like you're reverse engineering the profit in a sense. You're saying, so instead of thinking about like how much I have to make, it's, how many people, how many customers do I need at X dollars to get this much money? It's a good way of looking at it versus just like, I gotta make profit. It's more specific, right?
Let's plan for it. Let's start the year knowing that we're going to have it.
To get 30 customers or whatever, right? And then once you have that, what's the next step?
Then it's looking at it every month. So, I talk about the 7 key numbers or the 7 key reports that you need to look at in your business to know if you're on track. And one of them is Intuit, absolutely, the makers of QuickBooks, absolutely refuses to change the name of this report. I don't know why. They insist on calling it the budget to actual report. They will not change it to the profit plan to actual report.
I like that name a lot more.
I know. Isn't it so much better? But you need to pull that budget to actual report every month and say, am I on track? Am I not on track? If I'm not on track, why not?
Right.
If I'm ahead, why?
What did I do right?
What did I do right? Exactly.
Let me double down on that.
Yeah, people so often focus on the negative.
Right. And
we need to focus on the positive just as much so that we can keep doing that thing that we're doing right and have more of those positive outcomes.
I know you mentioned Intuit, QuickBooks. Like, let's say an entrepreneur listening, most people are not going to have Intuit and QuickBooks for the most part. They're going to be using a Google Sheet. Is that okay? If so, what do they really have to be doing in order to keep track of these things to make sure that things are on track?
I'm going to tell you that QuickBooks is not a big investment.
Right, but let's just say you're just starting out, right? You literally you're an entrepreneur. You just graduated college. You have a business idea, and you want to validate it before you kind of invest in any processes or programs, or because a lot of people out there, they're tired of the rat race. Maybe they just got laid off. Maybe they do have an idea, and they just want to kind of dip their toe in the water.
Yeah.
So it's more about like less is more, minimum viable product kind of thinking, lean methodologies. Like, let me use the available tools that I have at my disposal. Google Sheets has AI in it, kind of does a lot of work for you. So I'm just trying to think of like, what are the three key things maybe that you would say to someone? Well, you gotta make sure you have these three things in your accounting process or whatnot.
So when I look at your P&L, when I look at your profit and loss, I want to see one line item that is the expense of all of your payroll.
Okay.
You can have salaries, taxes, insurance. You can have all of that in one line if you want. But I want your people in a line.
Got it.
I want you to have your marketing in a line.
Okay.
Because really, I don't want you to spend more than, depending upon the size of your company.
Right.
And if we're talking that small, probably not more than about 5 or 10% on marketing. So I want to be able to see that line item.
Yeah.
And then the rest of your operating expenses can be on another line. Now, the way I would do it, because I am a finance girl and I'm a numbers girl, and I'm going to make the spreadsheet a little complicated. So I'll probably have
a ton of macros.
I've got the page that's all the operating expenses line itemed out. And so it's, putting it over here. But those are the things, because you want to be looking at those percentages on an ongoing basis. And I wrote a book called From Panic to Profit.
Ooh,
and
I like it.
One of the things I did in it, and it's on page 48. Here, I'm going to show you.
Okay.
Is I've got
the line items. Payroll, marketing, operating expenses, tax. That I love it. This is great.
This shows you how much you should be spending depending upon your revenue level.
Yeah, that looks fantastic.
So, if you are that 0 to 250, you should be spending 40% on your payroll and 5% on marketing.
Wow. Yeah.
So, are you within industry standards? Are you running a ship-shape business?
I love that. That's really good, because it's like a cheat sheet almost what you just showed me. And now I want to get out of the trenches for a minute and go to the front line, the juicy part. And I want you to tell the audience listening how you helped scale a company from $0 to 7 figures in under 2 years. Like, what were the key strategies that contributed to that kind of growth?
So I believe in running a company based on data.
Love it.
Most entrepreneurs, and I'm not picking on anybody. I'm one of you. I'm with you. But most of us start a company because we have a passion for a product or a service. We don't start it because we're like, oh, I just want to own a business and operate a business so much.
No way.
Most business owners don't have an educational background in how to run a business, right? All the people that have that are working for big corporations.
Right. CEOs, CFOs, VPs, all that kind of thing. Yeah, I gotcha.
I happen to have that educational background.
Nice.
And so, when I got into a company and we're spinning it up, I'm like, oh, no. These numbers don't add up. And we need to raise prices. So I went in. One of the things that I wanted to do is I'm raising prices 20%.
Wow.
Everyone went.
Yeah. That's why it's called Panic to Profit.
That's right. They were panicked. I'm like, no, we're headed to profit.
We're making profit. Yeah.
And I said, we're going to raise prices 20%. And so they're hyperventilating. And I said, do you think 1 out of 5 clients is going to quit?
Hmm.
And they said, well, no. I'm
Hmm.
like, well, let's say worst case scenario, 1 out of 5 clients quits. You all will make the same amount of money and no one has to come into the office on Fridays.
Right. Because you're still making the same amount.
You should make the same amount.
That's super smart.
And so, it's little things like that, looking at the data. How long does it take to produce this product? How much pressure does it put on your team?
Right.
It, how many can you do at a particular time?
Mm-hmm.
What is our net new?
Right, because the scalability is a factor now. Like if you're you have 10 clients and you only have enough bandwidth to take 10 clients, but you have 20 trying to get in, what do you do?
Right. And if your capacity is 10 clients and I'm going to say net new, because you always lose clients and you're bringing new ones on. So let's say, 2 quit and 3 come on. That's net new plus 1.
Plus 1. Yeah.
So let's say you've got 5 clients and you're net new plus 1 every month. And you can see this. You've been really steady at net new 1.
You have a chart that shows you the growth.
You see this. You've got 5 months until your team is maxed out.
Got it.
You have 5 months to hire and train and get your next hire in place.
That's a really good way of looking at it. I like that. So again, it's all about planning, it sounds like, with you. And so I guess that brings me to the point of like this process that you're bringing up to me. You can hire somebody who has a financial business background to help you through this journey. But there's also the way we live today after a pandemic and with everyone working from home, being able to cherry pick really talented people to work remotely part-time, right? To help you get to a certain place. So tell me how you can determine which approach is the right move for your business. Hiring somebody full-time to work for you in-house, or just cherry picking talented people to work for you as like a fractional CFO, whatever you want to call it. What are your thoughts?
So you're going to start fractional with whatever you are. If you're at that 0, start fractional, start virtual. People hold on to the accounting for way too long. Get rid of it pretty fast, because I promise you, you're a bad bookkeeper.
Ooh.
And it takes you.
Say that again.
You are a very, very bad bookkeeper. And it takes you a long time to do the bookkeeping.
Yeah.
And in the amount of time that it would take you to do the bookkeeping. So let's say you're spending 10 hours a month, 2 hours a week on 2 or 3 hours a week on the bookkeeping.
Right.
In that 10 hours,
you could have gotten so much other stuff done.
How much client work could you do?
Right.
How much could you have sold? How much? And think about it that way.
Yeah.
And is that more or less than you would pay a bookkeeper?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. If that 10 hours would have equated to $3,000 and you would have maybe paid a bookkeeper $500, just putting a number out there, you just made $2,500.
Go hire the bookkeeper.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because you're wasting money.
And time.
And the example I use is you've got a surgeon emptying bedpans in your hospital.
Wow. That is a great analogy. I'm going to use that one.
So
I'm stealing that from you.
When we start our business, we wear a lot of different hats, right? You're doing the work. You've got the owner hat. You've got the bookkeeper hat. You've got the receptionist hat. You've got the office manager hat. You've got the,
a lot of hats.
If there's a hat, you're wearing it.
Right.
You've got the head of marketing. You've got the salesperson hat. You've got all the hats.
Yep.
And as you grow, part of growth is taking off those hats.
Handing them to other people.
Handing them to other people. Bookkeeping really is a hat that you need to take off pretty quickly.
Got it. And let's say somebody wanted to hand you the hat where can they find out more about your service and what you provide for people and how you can help them?
Well, so there are two ways to do that. So the first is go to cathcap.com, and that's our website. And
Okay.
you can get a hold of me there. You can find out more about what we do. But I was talking about the rule of thirds earlier,
Mhm.
Jason.
Mhm.
And one of the things I'd like to do, we have what we call the profit finder.
Hmm.
And it helps companies see where they're spending their money.
Mhm.
Am I spending it properly for a company my size? And am I spending 40% on, am I
Payroll.
overspending or underspending on payroll? Am I overspending or underspending on my marketing?
Right.
Is my profit where it should be? So I've got that actually in a computer program
Hmm.
where people can go online and just put their information in, and it will give them a report. I'd love to make that available to your listeners.
Please do. That's great.
All right. So should we just say go to cathcap.com/0 to CEO?
Sounds like a plan to me.
All right. It'll take them right there. And then they can see what they're doing and where they need to tighten up.
Love it. Awesome, guys. Check out cathcap.com. Brooke, thank you so much. Everybody, go from panic to profit, and we'll see you guys in the next one.